Welcome to The Week Ahead, a podcast by SPM Intelligence. I'm your host, Veronica Pana Igube. Every Saturday, we explore stories that are shaping the African continent. SPM recently released a report titled Price of Everything. Telecoms and cable TV offer relief amidst Nigeria's inflation storm. According to the report, despite rising food prices and living costs, Nigerians continue to spend on streaming and cable TV. Internet use is also increasing despite a 50% hike in data prices. SBM Intelligence warns that without action to stabilize the economy and boost food production, inflation will keep hurting households. How can both food and digital services become more affordable? Ousted Speaker Mudashiru Obasa briefly took over the Lagos Assembly, causing confusion. Security details were withdrawn and later restored for his successor, Mojisola Maranda. Eventually, Miranda resigned and Obasa was reinstated. What does this turmoil mean for governance in Lagos? The Nigerian Customs boss warns that the proposed tax reform could weaken the agency. Meanwhile, President Tinubu signed a 54.99 trillion budget for 2025, nearly double the previous year. It includes a significant allocation for debt servicing and capital projects. How will this budget affect Nigerians' economy? Stanley Ikechukwu joining us for insights on these critical stories. Welcome, Stanley, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Veronica, for having me.
It's always great having you on. So let's start with the SBM report. Can you just give us a brief about what it's about and some of the findings from the report?
So we did a report last year, I think early last year, which was titled "The Price of Everything." So we did a follow-up report this year. So the report in itself looked around the costs of living in Nigeria, looked around so many items, so many household items, so many food items, and some other, you know, would I call it luxury items? It compared prices year on year, and the difference is what the report is all about. Between last year and this year, that we're doing the second report, we noticed that prices have actually increased astronomically when you compare to last year. If you look at prices around foodstuff, prices of rice has increased, price of beans went up, cost of rent also went up, cost of data has gone up, cost of cable TV has gone up, cost of oil, cost of transportation, almost everything is skyrocketing. So that's why we did the report to show Nigerians that things are really getting better, unlike what the government is saying. The CBN said they've implemented this, they've done that, but still yet, we've not been able to see the reflection in the everyday lives of the average Nigerian, not even the average Nigerian, because this cuts across, it affects everybody. As you know, there's nothing like middle class anymore in Nigeria. So, it's a very tough situation for so many Nigerians. Poverty rate is going up, unemployment is going up, insecurity is going up, food inflation is going up, and the naira on its own has lost significant value. So the report in itself just looked at situations, economic situations inside of Nigeria since the inception of President Tinubu's administration.
From the report, we are seeing that there's a lot of shifts to digital entertainment, streaming platforms, and there's also an increase in the consumption of data by Nigerians, even despite the hike in prices. Why do you think Nigerians are prioritizing digital entertainment despite the rising inflation?
So for me, I think I'll just look at it. I'll take it from one single angle. There's there's hardship in the land, and people just go on the internet and watch a lot of skits to while away time and help them reduce a lot of thinking. A lot of Nigerians have fallen into depression in the last since this administration took took over office. We saw the level of Nigerians taking their lives rather under the last administration, and the level of depression has also increased. And you agree with me that you cannot turn on your internet today and not find skits. Majority of Nigerians have decided to start doing skits to entertain Nigerians at home, to ease the thinking and the stress of the difficulties Nigeria is going through. So that alone has increased the need for internet services or internet data. So a lot of Nigerians are on the internet because they want to while away time and ease themselves of the stress. But if we also look at the reason for internet, it cuts across a whole lot of sector. You know, you need internet to carry out mobile transactions. You need internet to buy stuff. Solve the internet around e-commerce, buy stuffs, and do a lot of things. You could actually also um, view the streaming platforms on the internet. So there's a rising need for internet, and it makes connection very easy. The cost of, or rather, a lot of Nigerians do not use the regular call process anymore. It's being done over the internet. There's a lot of meetings. A lot of companies have also, you know, included work from home as part of their work activities. So a lot of businesses and a lot of Nigerian employees work from home. So that actually necessitated the need to buy more internet. That's why it's increasing. The cost of the internet is also going up at the same time, but people do not mind because there's a need for it.
I absolutely agree with you that, the cost of internet is going up because, a lot of us are going online for entertainment as well as business, e-commerce transactions, a lot of things that Nigerians are doing online. If you want to read more about our very, very interesting report. It's called The Price of Everything. Telecoms and cable TV offers relief amidst Nigeria's inflation storm. You can check that out on our website as well to get more insights. Let's move on to the Lagos story. So there's currently an issue that has been settled now at the House. What does this political back and forth say about the stability of Lagos state politics, especially as we saw in the legislative arm?
So straightforward. What this just shows is that there isn't enough democratic freedom or expression in the Lagos State House of Assembly. The fact that Mudashiru Obasa, I don't know if to call him the former speaker who has been reinstated to be the current speaker, was impeached and somehow still found his way back. He sat with just three members and they were able to bring him back. But along the line, the president had to intervene in the whole situation. This clearly shows that without the president, what would have been? It means that the independence of the Lagos State House of Assembly is not guaranteed. It's built more on patronage, who you have worked for, what have you done for this person. That's the reason you will continue to remain in the office. So I don't think the current situation the Lagos State House of Assembly has gone through shows true independence in a proper democratic dispensation.
Do you think that this struggle would affect the public trust, especially in government institutions? And is this setting a precedent for other political battles in Nigeria?
So the power struggle, like the one in Lagos State, can actually significantly, impact public trust. because with the way it is now, a lot of Nigerians will feel that these legislators are actually there for their own personal need. That would kill trust. The perception of self-interest when somebody who is supposed to represent some constituency is there all about himself. It means that he actually doesn't care about his constituency. But these are the people that keep electing them into office. So on trust in that area, it's going to erode trust from electorates. Again, it will also affect accountability because power struggle can actually lead to, or it will lead to lack of accountability. Sorry, as politicians may prioritize their own power struggle, and addressing the needs of concerned citizens, these things are not showing that the politicians are there to solve the problems of the people that voted them in. If you look around, most politicians who have been or Nigerians who have been represented by politicians, look at their own life. Their lives are not getting better, but the lives of this politician, keeps getting better. And Nigerians have always been complaining. Look at what our problems are. Look at what our problems are. But it's not being solved. But if you look at the problems of this politician, or whenever any of them have issues, they are quickly solved. If you look at the area of, say, healthcare, the state of healthcare in Nigeria is very terrible. But most of these politicians, when they are sick, because they can afford, state coffers money, they fly abroad and get proper treatment. But when Nigerians are sick, they're told to go and manage the same situation. Look at the health issue again, like I said. You go to major hospitals, public hospitals, and you find out that there are only 4 or 5 doctors attending to over 300 or 400 people. The job of these legislators or politicians are actually to enact law that would make life easy for people, but they are not doing all of this. Then they get into power struggle. So the trust from the electorate to these politicians are being eroded every day. And I don't think the situation that happened in Lagos State would build trust for the electorate. So we'll be looking at our next election. I just hope that Nigerians, you know, take these things very serious and look for people who are capable, people who have the capacity, people who have the interest of the masses at mind and vote them in so that the right things can be done.
Really interesting. So let's move on to our final story. On the customs opposing the new tax reforms that is being pushed by the Bola Ahmed Tinubu led administration. Why do you think the Nigerian customs is opposing this proposed tax reform?
I mean, it's only one reason because they will be taken out from the equation where money collection happens. The job or the role of customs globally is actually to facilitate trade and protect borders. But in Nigeria, it's a different case. But I think the UK also has something similar like Nigeria, where the customs are also responsible for collecting taxes around, imports into the country. But if you look at the US has a revenue system where the IRS is responsible for tax collection and revenue collection. But in Nigeria, despite having FIRS, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the customs still engage in the everyday, tax collection and levies, on imported goods in the country. So what the new tax reform has shown that it's going to do is that it's going to take custom away from collecting money and position custom to do its original job, which is facilitate trade, secure the borders of the country, and do all those things that concerns, security around, trade, the ports, the borders, and those kind of things. So it just takes them away from money collection, and that's why I think that the custom general is not happy about it because the custom on their own also have a way of they plan their own budgets from the revenue that they've collected. But this time around, it's not going to happen. The federal government is going to provide for them budgeting to run their everyday activities, unlike before, where from what they collect, they remit certain amount to the federal account and use the remaining to run their day-to-day activities. So what this will stop is corruption in the customs service. Customs job is just to protect the borders and facilitate trade, not to collect revenue. The new revenue agency that has been created will be focusing on collecting revenue so that we know how much we're collecting from customs.
We have the 2025 budget coming and it's really huge. Um, will this huge spending boost economic growth, or do you think it's going to worsen our issue, worsen our debt? And how does this 2025 budget compare to previous years in terms of priorities and impacts?
So the 2025 Nigerian budget is very huge, like you said, and it has sparked intense debates among experts and citizens alike in the country. You know, on one hand, the increased spending could potentially boost economic growth by investing in the right places. So the reason why countries budget or make budgets is so that they can spend those money on putting the right things in place for economic prosperity of every nation. For instance, when you budget, you spend money on infrastructure. When you put the right infrastructure in place, like building roads, building ports facilities, building airports, building building hospitals, building schools, all of these things somehow comes into play and facilitates economic growth. So the 2025 budget spending will actually improve economic activities. However, However, there are situations or there are problems around it. If the budgeting is not properly spent, then we're back to the same issue. The current 2025 budget has about 50% of borrowed money. So it means it has also deepened our debt ratio because the country on its own is not generating enough revenue to fully fund its budget. So it relies on some, borrowed money to fund the budget. So the budget itself can either make or break the economy. It depends on implementation and execution. So another challenge that the 2025 budget is going to face is, lack of revenue. The Nigeria as it stands today hasn't been doing very well economically. That's why the present administration has introduced a new tax reform bill, like the president said, bringing more people into tax brackets. Those people who are not paying taxes will have to begin to pay taxes. When taxes have grown, then you can say that the country is making enough money. With that, the country can then fund its budget properly. But as it stands today, half of that budget was borrowed. So it's going to affect our debts. Another problem is the effectiveness. If it's not properly executed, if the money is not spent doing the right things, it's going to be the opposite. Rather than benefit or improve economic activities, it's going to be a serious burden on Nigerian economy.
Thank you so much. That concludes today's episode. Thank you, Stanley, for being with us, and thank you for sharing your thoughtful insights. It always, brings the conversation more engaging. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. To all our listeners, this podcast is by SBM Intelligence. You can access our podcast by searching for SBM Intelligence anywhere you find podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe if you're yet to. Please like, share, and drop your comments in the comment section. For deep insights into our work, you can visit our website, sbm intel.com. Remember to connect with us on all our social media platforms. You can find us on X, Facebook, Blue Sky, LinkedIn at SPM Intelligence. Thank you for tuning into the week ahead. Join us next Saturday for more updates shaping the African continent.